Good morning. We got a ton of snow. It is birth story number 6, Miss Kennedy Reese DeVore, who is now 6 years old. I no longer have any babies. I don't know, I still might move to the table. This feels awkward. It feels awkward. Okay, so after we had Jillian, we had moved in with my sister and my brother-in-law. We lived there for 1 year, and during that year, after I delivered Jillian, I weighed a whopping 246 pounds. Like, I will never forget that number. Besides after I had Parker, I never really lost any of that baby weight because I just kept getting pregnant every year. So after I had her and she breastfed so good, I decided I had had enough and I wanted to lose that weight. And so I started doing Walk Away the Pounds by Leslie Sanson in our bedroom. And the weight started coming off, and I quit soda. I stopped eating basically I quit sugar, and I just ate pretty normal. Like I wasn't vegan or anything like that. I wasn't keto. I just started, I didn't really count calories, but I started measuring my portion sizes and just walking 2 to 6 miles every day with those tapes. Cause where we live, it was a dirt road and there was lots of loose dogs and it just wasn't safe to walk outside. So then we moved into our own house a year later, right across the street from my sister, and I continued my fitness journey. I got into Jillian Michaels DVDs, so I started strength training, and I brought my weight down from 246 to 150 pounds without my eating disorder, without starving myself or throwing out my food or any of those old habits that I was so accustomed to. And I felt really good. I was in the best shape of my life. And just through portion control and exercising regularly, I didn't like exercise like a crazy person. It wasn't anything like that. I wasn't trying to get into competitions or anything. So Jillian was 3 years old and I was not on birth control. Adam had not got a vasectomy, any of that stuff. They couldn't tie my tubes after Jillian, but the fertility meds that had to do with my first basically kick-started me having kids, I guess, because after that it was very easy to get pregnant, obviously. So my periods, because I was healthy now, my periods were very regular, like clockwork. Every 28 days I had my period. So what I started doing was tracking my period with the period tracker and an ovulation tracker. I knew the symptoms and signs to look for when I was ovulating now. So I knew what days not to be having sex with my husband. And we were very, very careful in that sense. I was like to the book. And then one night, we weren't drinking, we weren't anything. We just, oops. It was just, gonna be honest, it was the heat of the moment. And directly afterwards, I looked at my husband and I said, I am gonna be pregnant. Because I knew I was ovulating. And he was like, you are not gonna be pregnant. I said, nope, I am. I'm gonna be pregnant. He goes, if you're pregnant, I am moving to Mexico. Because we already had 6 kids. And we really did feel finished after Jillian. In fact, it was so funny. Before that night, 2 days, it sticks in my head, 2 days before that, Adam went in for his consult to get the vasectomy. Like, he finally had scheduled the appointment, went in to get the consult. His surgery was scheduled for like a month later because they were like backed up. So he got the consult, but he wasn't scheduled out until like it was right after Thanksgiving. So I knew from the moment of conception that I was to be with child. So let's fast forward to Thanksgiving Day. Had all my symptoms, hot water, butterfly feelings. I was feeling it like I already knew, like I was not shocked at all. I took a pregnancy test on Thanksgiving Day and I woke him up and I said, you better pack your bag. And he goes, why? I said, you pack your bag and move to Mexico. And he was like, oh my gosh. He said the S word. He was like, are you serious? And I showed him the test. And I only took one test with Kennedy because I knew. And he's like, oh man. He's like, I just had my surgery is scheduled for a month out. I'm like, I know. So I found a really good doctor. Like, I did my research. Like, I knew I was high risk. This would be my 6th C-section. So I found a doctor. His name was Dr. Sines, and I loved him so much. He was so awesome. And got my blood test. He confirmed it, and he started going through all of my history. He didn't say anything to me like, why did you do this, or we can't do a C-section, or you're foolish. It was nothing like that. He was very kind. He was like, don't worry about it. He's like, everything, it'll be good. I have your history here. You're very healthy. And I was super healthy. So when I got pregnant with Kennedy, like I said, it was about 150, 55 pounds, which is a really ideal weight for my body type. I was eating good. And anyways, I remember him looking at my history, and he was saying, why did you say that you had a C-section with your first? And I said, well, they told me that I had toxemia. And he goes, that's weird, because in your file, it says that the baby was too big, that she couldn't pass through the birth canal. And I'm like, I only had 2 ultrasounds with Allie. One when I thought I was miscarrying, and the second one when we found out what she was. So it said in the file that I had just had an ultrasound like a couple weeks before my water broke, saying that she was too big. And I'm like, they never said that. And he goes, yeah, this doctor definitely wanted to just get more money, because especially if you're on government insurance, they are guaranteed to get paid. So C-sections, you get paid a lot more than delivering vaginal. So he's like, you can bring this up, like you can take this doctor to court. And I was like, yeah, I could, but I don't know. I think he had retired or something, like, because when I had Parker, he wasn't even there anymore. Well, it turned out he had a whole bunch of lawsuits against him for that reason. But all my kids were meant to be here, so I never did pursue it. But I never had toxemia. I never had a fever. Yes, I was swollen, but he just did an unnecessary cesarean on me. So anyways, there was that. I found out that. So my pregnancy with Kennedy went extremely well. I was very active still. I was still exercising and eating right, drinking tons of water. Wasn't having any of the soda. Hardly ever ate fast food. I mean, we'd go out to eat every once in a while, because where we lived versus like where we live now or where we lived in Northern California, you couldn't just run to McDonald's. I mean, you had to drive 30 minutes to get anywhere, including the grocery store. So I really like meal planned and stuff back then, because you couldn't, like I said, just get in your car and drive 2 minutes down the road. The one thing I did crave with Kennedy that was weird was this vegetable soup that Adam makes all the time with ketchup. Don't you make it with ketchup?
I put a little bit in.
I don't know. I wanted that like at least twice a week. And I also, one of my weird symptoms when I was pregnant with her, I already knew I was pregnant with her, but we had Charmian toilet paper. It had been on sale at Costco, and so I'd gotten like one of those big packs of toilet paper, and I don't know, like I wanted to eat toilet paper. So her and Tiffany were the only weird non-food items that I craved. Like I would sniff it, and I actually licked the toilet paper. I don't know, it just smelled good, and I wanted to eat that toilet. It had some scent. It had the flowers on it, like from the 70s. I don't even know, but I wanted to eat toilet paper. So pregnancy went really well, because my body had had that 3-year gap to really heal. I was still breastfeeding Jillian. Everything was going well. He had a whole thing planned. He decided to take me a month early, just to make sure nothing happened. So she was a month early. She was born at almost a month early. She was born at 37 weeks, which I was fine with. I really, really trusted this doctor. I think a little part of me had a crush on him. You know how they always say that when you're pregnant, like you like fantasize. I don't know. Like I just really liked this doctor, and he was handsome. Adam. After my hysterectomy, he when I was coming out of the anesthesia, I was telling the nurses, like, I want to marry Dr. Sines. I don't know. Okay, so pregnancy, like I said, went very well. I had a ton of energy. I was taking care of the kids. I felt like a super mom at the time. I was super excited about having another baby. I wasn't scared at all because I just really trusted this doctor. Like he really made me feel safe. And we had a nice baby shower because I thought Jillian was my last. I had given away everything. I didn't have anything left. I accepted every hand-me-down that was offered to me. She was the only child that I found out, or that we got a 3D ultrasound, because I definitely knew she was my last. I know I said that about Jillian, but we did pay for a 3D ultrasound. That was really cool. I was certain that she was going to be a boy because Adam's like, the pattern, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy. But Adam was like, no, pattern's broken. She's going to be a girl. And I was like, no, she's going to be a boy, because I actually carried lower with her like I did with my boys. But I didn't get very big. And sure enough, she was a girl. And still no Samantha. But my dad, his name is Kenneth, but he goes by Wayne. And I thought it would be kind of cool, like I was toying around with, we liked the name Benjamin or Harrison for a boy and making the middle name Kenneth. But when we found out she was a girl, I was like trying to think of how I could incorporate Ken, and I didn't really like Kenny for a girl. So I came up with Kennedy. And Adam's one of his favorite actresses is Reese Witherspoon. Well, it's true. I mean, that's how we got the name Reese. So she became Kennedy Reese, and it was kind of after my father. And I was thinking about it, like, after she was born, all of my girls' names are 7 letters, including mine, Rebecca, and double consonants. Consonants. So you have Rebecca, Allison, Tiffany, Jillian, and Kennedy. They all have double consonants in them. All 7 letters. Didn't plan it. It was just coincidental. That's what happened. I thought that was kind of funny. So let's fast forward to my due date, July 21st. I go in. She was scheduled for like 3 o'clock. I'm like, I will die, like, because it was summertime in Southern California, and where we lived was a desert area, and I was thirsty all the time. So they bumped me into 11 o'clock in the morning. Somebody's surgery got canceled. And you have to, after like 9 o'clock at night, you can't eat or drink anything. So I still had to go quite a while. So when they tried to put the IV in me, do you remember this, Adam? Mm-hmm. They couldn't find a vein. Oh my gosh, my arms were so bruised. They tried both of the back of my hands, and the nurse was like, we might have to put the IV into her neck. And I was like, that is not happening. I will walk out of here right now and deliver this baby on my own. I was like, I'm not getting an IV in my neck. Like, that terrified me more than anything else. I was like, do not put an IV in my neck. I already don't like having them in my arms. Please, please, please. Finally, they got it in my hand. Like, they had to call in like 3 different people to help. It was really, really scary. That part was really scary. I had my mom there, my mother-in-law, Adam. This is the time where I had a good cell phone, so you couldn't take in this hospital, you could not take the cameras inside, which sucked because when I had all the kids in Northern California, we never had a camera that took the videos. And now that we did, they didn't allow it. They did take a picture and send it to us, though, right when they pulled her out, and I will post that picture on here. So they wheeled me back. Adam was all scrubbed up and numbed me up. My spinal tap took. Just very pleasant. Everything was flowing. Like, I wasn't, once the IV got in, I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. Like I said, I really trusted my doctor. He got in there, and he actually got her out fairly fast, huh, Adam? It was like, maybe 10 minutes, because, I did have scar tissue, but my body had healed for 3 years also. So he got her out, and I had my consent to get my tubes tied while he was in there. The only kind of problem that we really experienced right after they got her out, when he was trying to get to deliver my placenta, was I started dry heaving, because that medicine just makes me sick. And I remember him telling anesthesiologist, you need to get some more medicine in her drip, because I can't work when she's convulsing. So I remember them giving me more medicine, and that that solved the issue. They brought Kennedy and showed her to me. I just remember, it was like, well, she's so beautiful. Like, I remember thinking she has my lips, because she just had these full lips, and she was just so sweet. And I was just so thankful that I had a healthy pregnancy and that I delivered a healthy baby. She was 6 pounds. She was my tiniest baby. And they took her out, and Adam went out, and then he started having some issues. He had the placenta out. He tied my tubes, but I guess like pieces of my placenta had broken off or something and were like floating around, and he was trying to like get it out. Anyway, that part took a while. I was awake for all of it. And then, I woke up in recovery. He actually came into the recovery room, and he sat by me, and he took my hand. And Adam, it was just me and the doctor. Adam wasn't in there. Like, I was in the recovery room before you go to your hospital room. He took my hand, and I was, coming out of the medicine, and he was like, hey, how you feeling? And I said, I'm okay. And he said, you have a beautiful baby girl. Everything went well. He said, he's like, I'm really glad that we got your tubes tied. But he's like, I don't know how. He's like, by the grace of God, I don't know how you had such a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby. He's like, your uterus lining was so thin. He's like, we could see her through it, and you're not supposed to be able to see the baby through the uterus lining. That's how thin my lining was, because it had just been through too much. And anyway, I thanked him, and I was crying, and got in my hospital room, and they gave me Kennedy, and I was just knowing that she was my last. And there was that, you guys, I don't know how to explain it, but I knew she was gonna be special. I knew from the moment they placed her in my arms that she was special. I mean, of course I thought all my kids were special. I don't know how to explain it, and I love each of my kids equally, but there was something, it was like God was whispering in my ear, be prepared. She is special, but she is meant to be here. I allowed this to happen because you are meant to be this child's mother. Like, I just had that, I don't know, I can't describe it, you guys. So like I said in earlier videos, I really believe that God doesn't give you what you maybe can't handle. And Kennedy was a very, very easy baby, as far as like sleeping and stuff. So I, of course, was like, I'm gonna breastfeed. Like, I wanted to tandem breastfeed, but Jillian pretty much, like right before Kennedy was born, decided on her own that she was done. So I didn't force it. I didn't try to make her breastfeed. But because I had so much success with Jillian, I just figured I was going to have the same success with Kennedy. And it didn't happen. She would latch, but then she'd get frustrated because she wasn't getting anything. I got a tiny bit of colostrum, and I had a pump. I spent so much money on pumps because I'm like, maybe it's the pump, because I would pump for hours, you guys, for hours, and get maybe half an ounce. Like, we even had a lactation nurse come in to try to help. They thought maybe she was tongue-tied. She wasn't. They could not figure out why I wasn't getting any milk. Like, I was never engorged. I wasn't leaking. And plus, when I would pump, I would gush so much blood. It was ridiculous. So I was very weak. I was very anemic. My iron was super low. There would be days like I was like, I have 5 other kids to take care of. My stepson, by that time he was back and forth between Northern and Southern California, but I had 5 other kids full time at home. That the oldest one was only 9, and I was like, I have to get up. Adam was working, and I was so sick, you guys. I remember my sister and my niece coming over to take the other kids a lot because I was just so weak. But man, I had like my alarm set for every 2 hours. I was getting up and trying to pump. So at this time, because I couldn't even pump breast milk, she was obviously drinking formula, and she was fine. Like, she was growing and thriving, and she was a beautiful baby and easy. But I was sick. I was so sick. I lost a ton of weight way too fast. I couldn't keep food down. So I went back into my doctor, and he did ultrasound, and it showed up that I had traces of placenta still in me, and he felt so bad. And I was like, I just had so much scar tissue from so many surgeries, it was just hard to get everything out. So if you have placenta still in you, your breast milk will not come in because your body's going to still think it's pregnant or something. I don't know the science behind it, but that's why my breast milk wasn't coming in. So he ordered a DNC, went in for the DNC, came home, breast milk still wasn't coming in. I was still bleeding so heavily. Like, I'd go like a day with nothing, and I would think, okay, it's done. And I would get up to do something or take care of the kids or even put a load of laundry in, and I would just gush. We're not talking like a little bit of blood, like after you bleed or during pregnancy. I bled a lot with Parker, but it wasn't heavy. This was like, this wasn't normal. Like, I was sick. Like, I was pale all the time. It was just bad. So from July to November, I suffered with this. I'd given up breastfeeding. Like, it wasn't happening. She was bottle fed, and I went back into my doctor. He was like, you're sick. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, we can't continue like this. My uterus was still the size of somebody 7 months. So even though I had lost a ton of weight, I was swollen from like water retention, and it wasn't shrinking. And he's like, I went in the DNC. He's like, I thought I got everything. And he said there was this option to put a tube in my leg, and I'd have to wear like a bag. I don't remember what it was that he said could help me, or I could just have a hysterectomy. And I was done having kids, but that decision was still hard because that's kind of your womanhood, and there is a chance that it can send you into full-blown menopause. But he told me, he's like, I advised hysterectomy. He's like, because one of these times if you bleed too much, you're gonna bleed out. And he even told me, he's like, you really have a guardian angel, because if you would have bled like this all at once, he's like, you wouldn't be here. You would have died. He's like, so I advised the hysterectomy because something was wrong. And I was like, okay, let's schedule it. Like 2 days later, it was scheduled. My mom came to watch the kids. Adam took me in, had to get 2 IVs, 1 in each arm. And they did it how do you say it? Laparoscope, the laser way. So they didn't have to cut me open. They put like holes. I don't know how they do it, but anyway, took about, how long was I in there? Like 2-3 hours?
Yeah.
It took a while to pull my uterus out. And so I remember, like, that was the worst surgery I had to heal from, because basically it was like I was giving birth, because they pull your uterus out from down there, like, and it was still very large. And he said it was, what was causing all the bleeding is my uterus was large, but it was disintegrating inside of me. It was breaking off into chunks. And yeah, he said any longer I would have died. I would not be here. That was kind of hard to hear, you know. And the recovering from that was painful. You get like swollen belly, like really bad, because from the gas, because they do it, you're upside down when they do it. I don't know, it was weird. I remember there being a lot of pain. I couldn't breathe right. I felt like the recovery from my hysterectomy took longer than my recovery from C-sections. Like, I needed a lot of help when I finally got home. And plus, where you recovered at was in the maternity ward. So you're surrounded by all these babies and mothers that just given birth, and you're like, I have no uterus. But yeah, I ended up with hysterectomy after Kennedy. And then she was about a month old. I was going through pictures, and I noticed that her head, in every single picture, it was like not just a little bit tilted, but like this. And I was like, I sent the pictures to Adam. I'm like, you ever noticed that her head's always leaning to the right? And he's like, no, but now that you mention it, and he's like, maybe we should take her in, make sure everything's okay. Took her into a pediatrician, and she ended up having torticollis. So if you're ever seen the little kids that sometimes have to wear the little helmets, that's because they have torticollis, and if it's not corrected right away, they can get, because their skull is soft still, it can become indented. And so they use the helmet so that it forms the skull better. Well, we caught it, she was only a month old. We caught it very, very early. So that was actually before my hysterectomy that we caught the torticollis, and she went to physical therapy. And I don't know, she just wasn't hitting her milestones. I mean, after 6 kids, like, I was like, I know each kid is different, but she wasn't rolling over. She wasn't sitting up. She had a hard time making eye contact. Just wasn't, I knew something was wrong. And she was still lovable. Like, she loved to be cuddled. Like, she loved mommy and daddy to hold her and all that stuff. But by the time her first birthday came along, she had no words, none. I think she said, you would say 1 and she would go 2, and she said apple. Like, that was it. By 15 months old, still nothing. She didn't walk until she was about 14 months old. She finally started to walk, but I mean, she just hit every milestone super late. So my pediatrician recommended getting her tested with a neurologist, and so began all of Kennedy's testing. She was too little to make a diagnosis yet, so we had people coming to the house and working with us, but I think people were leaning towards autism. We didn't know, but we got intervention for her very, very early. She was also very, not active, but she was very aggressive. She broke a lot of toys, broke a lot of furniture by banging stuff. She couldn't express herself, so that's how she did it. They said she had proprioceptive sensory disorder, which is she doesn't realize, and she still has this, she doesn't realize her limbs are attached to her body. She doesn't have that connection that her arms and legs are attached to her, so she's very rough in everything that she does. And we didn't get her official diagnosis till we moved here, because they kind of don't like to diagnose until they're 5. Plus, she has ADHD. She does have that, and it is genetic. And autism also runs in my family. Autism runs on Adam's side of the family, and ADHD runs in my side of the family. So they don't know what causes it. I have a feeling that she probably was delayed, but I think things got worse when she was 2. She had a fever seizure, a bad one, and she stopped breathing. She turned blue. We had to call the ambulance. My mother-in-law is the one, thankfully, my mother-in-law was there. Like, I know CPR and all that stuff, but when it happens to your child, you kind of lose everything that you know, and you just go into, like, I just started panicking. I just remember screaming for Adam. It was on a weekend, thank God. And I remember tripping down the stairs, like almost broke my leg because I was wearing a long skirt. And I called the ambulance, but my mother-in-law got her breathing. She pinched her really hard, like on the leg or something, and got her to start breathing. But took her into the hospital. They said she actually had an ear infection. That's what caused the fever. But I think that caused some damage. Like, I really think that. I think she went a little bit too long without oxygen. And she can be hard. Like, it would be hard to go places and take her in public because she would scream and try to run away. And anyways, since we moved here, she's had the best treatment and so much help. She is autistic. She's not high functioning, but she's not like where she can't have a somewhat normal life. She'll probably always need assistance. I mean, like, she's gonna be 7 and she still does not poop in the potty, which is very common with autistic children. Her speech is a lot better. She is better at making eye contact. She is my special girl, and I love her so much. She definitely completes our family for sure. So thanks for joining us. I'd love to hear your guys' comments. I hope you enjoyed this. Happy Valentine's Day. I will be back tomorrow with me and Adam's story, and I will also post that little Valentine thing I took of them making their cards. I think that's everything. I feel very blessed. I'm very lucky. Chicken tendies, you guys. We'll see you guys next time.